10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Press Box with your hosts, Scott Fitzgerald and Sean Clemens.
Something about seeing me in a poop costume always makes me smile, buddy. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Sudden Death Fantasy Sports Fantasy Football Press Box with your hosts, Scott and Sean. How you doing, buddy, man? How's your week been?
It's been good. Enjoyed the draft this weekend. Been watching some NHL playoff hockey, which has been super exciting, and watching the Detroit Pistons look like they're going to get knocked out of the playoffs by the 8th seed Orlando Magic.
I know, it's pretty insane, huh? I haven't really been paying too much attention to basketball other than when you tell me about stuff like that going on. I've been focusing a lot more on hockey, of course, with the Knights there. It's my local team, so I root for the Knights. And, we've been them. I would really love to see the Sabres and the Knights. And so I've just been rooting for them. That's what I picked in my Cyborg bracket that I'm in. So that's kind of a double reason to root for that. So if I can get to a Sabres Knights series in the end, I will go to a game this year. I will make my way down to, right over there on the strip and work in somehow to get a ticket. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to make it happen. And, so let's all root for that, right? So anyways, man, that's not why we're here, though. We're not here to talk about hockey or basketball, right? We're here to talk a little football. And, I feel like there was something kind of important that just happened in the NFL just this last week. Scotty, wasn't there something that went down a few days ago that was pretty important for the NFL?
Yeah, I think it's called the NFL Young Guys Get Rich draft.
Yeah, that's right. The draft. How could I forget? Of course. Yeah, man. You talk about an exciting time, right? We should start off, though. Let's start off first and foremost with the draft contest, right? We had our draft contest, and the guy who ended up winning was one of our regulars. He's been playing with us from day one, so I'm always happy to see somebody that supports us like that get a big win. And our buddy Meta Flanges was our big winner, taking home the prize pool of $200, which he did receive earlier today. So he has that in his possession and said that he is ready to use it for more leagues. So I would not be surprised if we don't see Mr. Metaflange jumping in a lot of these leagues that we're about to be launching here in the next few days. So again, congratulations to you, my friend. And on top of that, we do have two other people that get themselves an extra prize here. They get themselves a free entry into one of our best ball games coming up as well. And that is D. Calinog in one spot, and I don't know why I'm blanking on the other one. It was DraftKings 75. So you got to tell me who you are, DraftKings 75. I know D. Calinog, you're in one of our leagues, multiple amounts of our leagues, I should say. But I definitely can get a hold of you, my friend. But Dart King 75, reach out to me on Sleeper, DM me, Trader Clem, and let me know who you are so that I can make sure to give the entry to the right person. And if you don't claim that entry, then I'll go ahead and just keep moving on down the list. It would be Most Dope Forever, which we do know is in a lot of our leagues because we like to say Most Dope for ... So yeah, and that was pretty cool though, man. It was a lot of fun. We had a great time doing that draft contest. We're looking forward to doing a lot more things like that for you guys. Scotty, man, I was way down. I was at like 7, man. Do you know where you ended up on that list? I can look you up real quick.
I think I was down at I was up at the top for a while, and then once like the middle to end of the draft started, I just free falled again because I couldn't get any more points. The players were gone already that I already had picked to go there, so I wasn't able to get any more points. And So yeah, it was kind of disappointing on my end. But Sean, I'm kind of ignorant. What is a metaphalanges?
I am assuming it is like New Age fingers, spirit fingers, maybe. I mean, I have no idea. I mean,
I love the name metaphalanges. Maybe I should look it up.
yeah, maybe it's like a hacker thing. I don't know. Zero Cool, something like that. I don't know. That's an old school reference for all you people out there. You probably never seen the movie Hackers because you guys are a lot younger than I am. But if you haven't, go check it out. It's a cult classic and it's an amazing movie. It's Matthew Lillard's like first movie, I think, and he's awesome. And actually, I think it's Angelina Jolie's first movie too, if I'm not mistaken. But it's totally worth a watch. Make sure you check it out. Zero Cool is a reference to that. You'll find out when you watch it. So yeah, man. Anyways. That definitely, metaphalanges. I don't know what his name means, but I do know that he knew how to pick these draft picks properly, and I think that our boy D. Cavanaugh deserves a little bit of love though, because he was so close to dominating this. Like he was off. Like a player went to the right team, but they were one pick away from where he had him going because they made a trade one pick up to get the guy. You know what I'm saying? I think that happened with like the Miami Dallas trade, if I'm not mistaken. But like that's how close this guy was to like dominating. So he had a lot of the right things happening. He just hadn't have them in the exact right order, which cost him the loss pretty much. So it was a really close call, and those two guys definitely were duking it out, and it was fun to watch. So. Beyond that,
Meta was at the top. I mean, he was like tape to tape. I mean, he started off in the lead, and he never really relinquished it. And yeah, Decal kind of creeped up there towards the end. He just, he needed I think he needed another round.
Yeah, exactly. He was just like you said, he needed like one less trade to happen. Like one of the unnecessary ones, like to me that felt unnecessary was the Dolphins Dallas trade, like the one skip like that. I really don't think that they were going to lose their guy in that situation, but maybe there was another team that was looking to trade up and Dallas was like, I'm going to make this trade unless you do this or something. I don't know. But or Miami, whoever it was that moved up, I can't remember now. I'm blanking on it, but either way, I feel like if he had just one of those things happen the other way around, he would have taken it, no problem. So
yeah, there's definitely a lot. I mean, we'll get into more of the draft, but to me there was a lot of really unnecessary trades, like moving up one or two spots to get somebody. And it's like, dude, you could have got that guy maybe in the second round or like way later, and you gave
Absolutely.
up. I hate teams that give up draft capital, even like 6th and 7th rounders. I mean, them guys could always help your team, in the future.
Yeah. Especially when you do a great job trading back and gaining some assets, and then you turn around and give one away for a trade up on a player that you probably could have just sat and got 3 picks from then. That kind of scenario. I don't know who it was that did that. I can't 100% remember exactly who it was that made that move, but it was pretty frustrating. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. So I just don't understand these teams, but I don't know. Maybe they get some smoke screens. They get some bad information and they freak out and they're like, "Oh my god, I got to move up," or they're gonna grab this guy from me.
I just don't know. I mean, like I can't sit here and hate it too much. Like, okay, obviously I was talking about the Bills a minute ago when they traded up in the second round to get a cornerback that I just don't think they had any need to trade up for, and that situation to me just felt, come on, guys. I just didn't think they needed to do it. You gave, like you said, you trade back 3-4 times, and then take a player there that I didn't think was the best one on the board either. And then you go and do this move later on with one of the picks you gained during all those trade backs, and it just turns into like a whole kind of weird thing that I wasn't too pleased with as a Bills fan, and not a lot of us were. Honestly, as a Bills fan, the Bills saved their draft when they got to day 3. Day 3 is what saved this draft for Bills fans. Otherwise, I think they would have had like pitchforks and torches at the doors tomorrow morning, because they were like, all of us were like frustrated. Everybody I was listening to, everybody I was talking to was annoyed with the way things had started out. And they started out so good with the trade backs, and then they just fell apart after that. And it just seemed really frustrating. So the fact that they were able to come back strong late in the draft, I hope works out for them, because they do have a tendency to find guys late that always end up working out for them, Matt Milano being one of them, right? So they can do that again and save this draft class, because I don't know why you take a DN like that in the first spot. Anyways, I'm not going to go too crazy on it, but there's a lot that bothered me. Let's say it that way. What's up, Corey? How you doing, man? He's asking us a question here. Let's talk about it real quick. He says, do you think the Raiders are going to pursue Ayuk, Jennings, Diggs, Keenan Allen? I mean, honestly, that's not a bad idea for them at this point. I think they should do that. They get one of those guys in here. Who out of those guys, I would probably lean towards Jennings personally myself. I just think that he's the one with like probably the least amount of baggage and the most air in the tank, or gas in the tank or whatever you want to call it, air in the tires, however you want to say it. So I would probably lean that route. Scotty, you think that's a good move for them too? I mean, I think so.
If I bring anybody in, because to me, the Raiders offense is going to go through Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty. But if I'm bringing any of those guys in, two of them have baggage. One of them's kind of, a little volatile in Jennings. So I would bring in Keenan Allen. He's more of a captain. He thrives on bringing the young guys up. So I think he'd be like a coach on the field, and he'd help those young receivers in Beck and or Jack Besh and Trey Tucker. And I actually really like Trey Tucker, so I'd bring in Keenan Allen.
Yeah, I mean, I like Keenan Allen too. If you're not going to go with Jennings, then I'm okay with Keenan Allen as my secondary choice. I'd stay away from Diggs and Ayuk in general. I just don't feel like they would be a good fit for what you have here. You need a little bit better character out of your players right now in a team that's kind of an up-and-coming youth movement. So thanks for stopping by, Corey. Really appreciate you, my friend. And anytime you have any more questions, man, we're here for you. Just keep on throwing them out whenever you want.
Thanks, Corey.
So, yeah, man, but let's roll into some draft talk because we want to go like kind of a little team by teamish. And, we're going to focus on fantasy football players. So we're not going to worry too much about the MD players. We're going to focus on the offensive side of the ball and whose stock kind of went up, whose stock went down based on where they got drafted. Poor Mike Washington. Anyways, so let's get started here, Scotty. Arizona was the first, real kind of domino to fall, I guess you could say, that we didn't expect, right? Everybody knew Fernando was going to go to the Raiders 1 overall. We kind of all anticipated that. We had already had that written in almost ink, right? So with Arizona taking Jeremiah Love, kind of threw a little bit of a wrench in a lot of plans, I think. And I don't think it was completely out of the realm of possibilities or anything. Like, it wasn't that much of a shocker, but I think it was a bit of a shocker, especially for some of the teams near the, right behind them there in that draft spot. So do you think that Jeremiah Love ended up in a good spot with Arizona? Do you think his stock went up or down based on it, or you think he kind of still right about where you had him before?
I think his stock just kind of stayed the same. I really didn't like the pick for Arizona. I mean, I know he's the best player available unless they try to move out of that spot and couldn't get the right deal. I just think that they must evaluate, or they must think he's just gonna be a superstar to take him right there. I think they should have went defense, in my opinion. They do have a lot of holes to fill, but I'm not gonna kill him for it. I mean, he's the best. He was the best player on the board right there. And if you're going for that analogy, and that's how you're gonna want to how you work through your draft, then it was the right pick. So I'm not gonna knock him on that.
I mean, I don't hate the idea of them taking him. At this point in a team like that, you just take whatever offensive firepower weapon you can, and he was by far the top offensive skill position player in this draft. And there was a good gap, I mean, I think Tate and I think Tyson, they have a chance to be really, really good players, maybe superstar players, but I don't think that they have the same ceiling that Love has, and I don't think that they have anywhere near the same floor Love has. So I think Love's floor is 6 or 7 floors higher. So to me, I don't really think that it's as much of a risk for them taking Love over one of the receivers, which they probably could have paired with their guy too, just as much as the running back room. They could have used either receiver or running back. I don't think either one of those positions they needed more than the other, a lot. You could say running back because they had a couple of guys in stable and signing Algier that that could have said, okay, maybe you go receiver instead. But I think Love was just too much of a better prospect to go that route in this draft. There wasn't a neighbors there for him. Otherwise, I think for sure that's where they go. But I do want to talk a little bit about Tyler Algier, because we're talking about stock up and stock down. And obviously Tyler Algier, man, this poor guy is riding the waves, man. I mean, it's like he's been in Hawaii right now just surfing for the last few months, I should say few years of his career, because it started out wonderful, riding the big kahuna wave and into the shore, 1,000-yard rookie season. everything's hunky-dory, and then bam, here comes Bijan Robinson, the best back since sliced bread, to come out and gets drafted by your team and goes right ahead of you in the depth chart, just pencils them in, boom, 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 right in front of you. So now you're running second fiddle somebody for the remainder of your rookie contract. That's okay though, right? Because you know you got a shot. Free agency's coming up. You're going to have an opportunity to get your turn, you know? You wait your turn, you're patient, you sign your money, you go to a team that doesn't have a stud running back. You're ready to go in there and be that number one guy. And then the draft happens. And they take Jeremiah Love at number 3. And it's literally the same thing you watched happen 3 years ago or 4 years ago, whatever it was, when Bijan got picked in the top 8 in the draft. And now you're in the same exact spot with just a little bit of deeper pockets. How do you feel if you're that guy right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, I mean, that's heartbreaking. Like, I would be extremely upset and be like wanting to either find out if I can get a trade or, you know, play the season out and then definitely look at one next season or whatever I need to do to kind of work my way into a position where I can be on another team before my very short running back window runs out.
Yeah, well, I mean, they gave him a nice contract coming over, but yeah, it's. I mean, he went from he's in the same situation.
He wants to play.
Well, I understand that he wants to. Obviously, they all want to play, but you know, you signed a contract, you know, and you go in there, and all you can do is just be the best player you can be, and it's unfortunate that he's going to be in the same exact situation he just left. So, other than a Jeremiah Love injury, you know, he's going to be playing the same role that he had when he was in Atlanta. So it's unfortunate because I actually liked Tyler Algier a lot. I mean,
me too.
You know, so it's definitely unfortunate. He could definitely be a lead back.
Solid RB2 if he was on a team with a lead back. Like if he was David Montgomery's position right now, he'd be a solid RB2 option.
Yeah, no, he's definitely if he had the lead back role on another team, he'd be a solid RB2.
Absolutely. You know, and our buddy Cool Tyrant over here, our buddy Chris, who's put us up a bunch of primer videos. If you guys didn't check them out, you got to go to sdfantasysports.com, go to our news and articles section. We've got a position. Every position is up now. We've got tight ends, receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, all there for you guys to read through. Got some great insights in there. We do really appreciate you submitting those articles to us, buddy. His name is Buster Martin on Sleeper, too, if you guys want to DM him and talk at all. But, yeah, he says he's got a trade here for us. He said someone just offered him Algier for Samson with Judkins a little tender coming off major injury. Would you make this trade? I would probably take Algier over Samson. Yes, I'd probably do that because I still think, like Scott said, Algier will be like more in the running in that offense than I would think Judkins will be with Samson in the back. I just think Judkins, and I don't anticipate he's missing any time from what I understand. I think he's coming back healthy before the season starts. So I would think Judkins is going to get like bell cow shares in that offense. Plus, I do think that Arizona has a better chance to be a better team this year than Cleveland does. So I'd probably take that deal and keep Algier on my squad. And like we said, hopefully he gets traded somewhere that needs a running back midseason or something because of injury, and he gets a shot because I just feel for the poor guy. But thanks for tuning in, buddy. It's good to see you again, man. Always glad to have you in the show. So let's move on. Like, let's look real quick. Did Arizona take anybody else that's worth talking about in their draft? They took a kid in the 5th round named Reggie Virgil, one of the receivers out of Texas Tech. Do you think that is going to be anybody who moves the needle for them, or do you think they're basically it's love or bust as far as this draft is concerned? Obviously, I'll get Carson Beck too. Let's not forget Carson Beck in the 3rd round. I don't know why I just breezed right past him. Yeah. But you know, Carson Beck in the 3rd round. Now that's a spicy move because it wasn't a late 3rd round pick or nothing like that. I mean, you could call him an early or a late 2nd if you want, as opposed to an early 3rd.
Overall. 65th overall.
Exactly.
Yeah, Carson Beck. I mean, he's not my favorite prospect. He's been around a few teams. There has been some talk where he, you know, maybe isn't the best teammate. But you know what? They addressed the need. And, you know, whether or not he's going to be the heir apparent going forward, I don't mind teams that address a need. And they do have a need at quarterback. And we'll see if he's willing to learn behind Jacoby Brissett. And if he's a sponge and he takes everything in and he's fine with being a backup for a year or two, and learn the offense. I mean, he's got a great receiver in Marvin Harrison, along with Michael Wilson. Hey, let's not forget about Trey McBride. So if I'm Carson Beck and I'm going in that situation, I'm actually really excited to be in this spot because even though they all want to play, I can sit, I can learn from Brissett. I got a bunch of weapons. I play in a dome.
Now, Brissett is upset about his contract and has not showed up yet. So that is a developing situation that could put Carson Beck squarely in the driver's seat if something ends up, not playing out the way that Arizona hopes with when it comes to him. And not only that, he's going to get an opportunity to get a lot of reps before Brissett shows up too. So both of those things are going to be really beneficial for him as far as either playing the season is concerned or just developing into a better quarterback long term.
Yeah, if I'm Carson Beck, like with the news that you just told us about. If I'm Carson Beck, I'm going to be there as fast as I can, and I want the playbook, and I'm going to learn because you're absolutely right. If Brissett, decides he doesn't want to show up, he's next in line for first team reps. So I'd learn that playbook as fast as possible, and this could be your opportunity to possibly get on the field as early as this year.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation there for him. So that's a guy to keep an eye on too, especially if he falls to you in like maybe your third round of your rookie drafts. Some people might even take him in the early set or the late second. But if he's there for you in those positions, I say grab him, man. You never know. He's definitely worth the stash and store. I mean, him and Ty Simpson, he might be on the field before Ty Simpson.
He went today. He went in our Giants Dynasty League. Today he went in the mid-second.
Yeah, see? So if he's sitting there for you in that late second, early third, you better take him. You know what I'm saying? It's worth it. It's worth it just because it's a team that's in need of the position, and we've seen this happen before. There's one of them playing in the same division named Brock Purdy, who was drafted late and ended up turning it on and becoming a super stud for him. There's one of them who's got a lot more rings than anybody else out there. So, these things happen. It doesn't mean that a guy like Carson Beck can't step in there and become a stud. There was another Carson who wore a Cardinals uniform back in the day who played pretty well in it. So maybe he'll kind of channel that Carson's love and go from there, But man, that's it's a pretty interesting setup for the Cardinals moving forward. They at least took care of a few things, and I do think they got a super stud in Love. I mean, he's going to be a baller. Let's look at Atlanta real quick. Other than the fact that they took the little brother of one of their existing cornerbacks already, I thought that was a pretty cool just moment in general. It doesn't really matter for what we're talking about though, because it's not fantasy related. But it looks like the best piece on the fantasy board that they maybe grabbed for us might be this kid out of Georgia named Zachariah Branch, wide receiver. So with the departure of Darnell Mooney in Atlanta, do you feel like this kid's got an opportunity to get a lot of playing time?
He's definitely has an opportunity. He's a small receiver. He's only like 177 pounds and like 5'8". He's really small, but his metrics are good. He catches the ball really good. He's really fast. And so he's definitely going to work the underneath. And like you said, opportunity. That's what we're looking for in fantasy is with these rookies.
We're looking for like a Tank Dell performance. Right, like a Tank Dell rookie season type of situation out of him.
Yeah,
that's the type of player that I think he could potentially be for them.
Yeah, I mean it's all about opportunity. That's what you're looking for in these dynasty assets is how fast can they get on the field.
Yep. Yeah. What position are they in right now? How early were they taken? Were they traded up to get? That's another big piece to think about too. If somebody trades up, if it's only a few picks or whatever, they trade up. That means they really like that guy, and they really have an idea of how that guy fits into their team. So that's something to keep an eye on too. What's up, Cy? How you doing, buddy? It's always good to have you, man.
What up, Cyborg?
We missed the cyborg laugh on the show. Get you back on the air with us so that we get some cyborg laughing going on. That's always a good thing. Everybody loves to talk about the cyborg laugh. Yeah. Baltimore, baby. Yeah, Cyborg, by the way, is running a couple pools right now, guys. He's got the NBA one going and an NHL one going. If you guys are in those pools and you don't tip him when you win, you guys are mean people. But I hope you guys don't win if you're not going to tip. If you are going to tip, take it all down, baby. All right, let's move on. Baltimore, baby. Let's see. They took Ogar with their first pick, so that means nothing for what we're talking about. But if we scroll on down, they've got this receiver we just talked about pregame while we were pregaming here, Elijah Sarrett out of Indiana. You seem to like this kid quite a bit.
Yeah, his actually I got one pick before me. I'm at the 301, and if he doesn't get picked, I'm going to get him in the third round. I like this kid a lot out of Indiana. I think I gave Sean a stat. He caught 43 out of 53 passes that he caught last year were for first downs. So that's really nice. And he's the all-time leader in touchdown receptions for Indiana. That's really good. His metrics are really good. His hands are great. Uh, and I think the Ravens are looking for somebody like that can stretch the field. That's a red zone threat. They've been waiting for Rashad Bateman to wake up, and he's still sleeping. So I think they're going to just. I think Surratt could easily pass Bateman on the depth chart. We know Zay Flowers is going to work underneath. So they're looking for that big-bodied receiver that can go deep in red zone. So I like Surratt a lot. Yeah. So if you can get him in the third round, that's great. But I think if you took him in the second round, that would be fine too.
Yeah, I think he's kind of around that mid-second range right now, mid to late second if you get that lucky. But there's one other position that they attacked, and they actually attacked it not once but twice in this draft, which is kind of interesting. It's they took a Matthew Hibner at a SMU at the tight end position, along with a Josh Sueves at Alabama at the same thing, and a few rounds later, looks like they were actually about one round apart. So Scotty, do you think the fact that they just attacked the same position twice, do you think that's just kind of trying to find a little bit of a diamond in the rough because they lost one of their tight ends, or do you think that really spells anything out for Mark Andrews' usage this year?
I mean, it was kind of puzzling that they went that route. I mean, I could see them going after one, but they took two, like one in the fourth round and one in the fifth round. So it was a little puzzling that they took two like that, like pretty close. So I think, maybe they're just a little worried about Mark Andrews and his reliability with his, now he's getting older. He's in his 30s. So maybe they're just looking for, somebody to replace Isaiah Likely. And they smashed those two positions in the middle of the draft.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. I think they just took a couple of swings at the position because they think that Andrews is on the downswing, and they're probably going to have to attack that position a little harder next season if one of these guys doesn't pan out for them. Otherwise, they figured why not take a couple bites out of the apple and see what happens. I don't hate it, especially when you're talking in anything after that fourth round, and beyond. I think those are all the times that you start looking at things like that.
Yeah.
So. Next up, we got up my Bills, baby. And talk a little bit of Buffalo. We already mentioned that they took a DN for some ungodly reason in the beginning of the draft and then traded up for a cornerback that I don't feel they needed to do that for either. So they waited all the way down to the fourth round to take a receiver named Skylar Bell out of UConn. And everything I've read about this kid is exciting. This is where I talked about how they kind of started to save their draft towards the end. I feel like these picks in the fourth round is where that started, with both Bowery and Bell. I thought were solid picks, but Bell specifically, I think has a chance to be that guy in this offense right now that kind of steps into that third receiver role that isn't really occupied by anybody more than like a Keon Coleman right now, and we all know where that's gone lately. So I do think Skylar Bell is an intriguing candidate to look at, especially because he's dropped into later in your drafts. So, Scotty, what do you think of Skylar Bell? There's really nobody else to talk about on that list because they just attack defense like crazy in this draft.
Yeah, well, I think the Bills did a good job attacking defense because that's where definitely they needed to get some defensive players in there. But I'm not as high on Skylar Bell as probably you are, maybe some of the other players. But I think he could definitely fill the wide receiver 3 role. I mean, how hard is it going to be to beat out Coleman there? He's just been a huge bust. So
Nick Shaver's his biggest competition right now.
Yeah, and it looks like he has the same build as your second receiver. I'm drawing a blank. Shakir. We talked about it earlier. Yeah, I think he has the same build. So I think he could probably win that third wide receiver role, and he's more of a Shakir guy. So like I said, I don't hate it, but I'm not like head over heels.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you're talking about a fourth round player, you're not expecting like a ton right away. But if it happens, great. I mean, it's not like he's going to turn into Puka or anything like that. And I just don't anticipate that. But I do think he has like a pretty awesome skill set that could play out well in our offense, knowing that we got a hole in that position right now that needs to be filled. So let's move on to another team, Carolina, and they made they started out O-tackle just like where it doesn't matter for us, just like Buffalo doesn't matter for us, but they did take a guy that we had a buddy Teddy talking about recently on the show. Chris Brazzell from Tennessee ended up going to them in the third round, no less. So this kid right here, you talked about him earlier, and Teddy talked him up pretty good. So you think that this kid's got a real shot, huh?
I mean, the only worrisome I have with this guy is he comes from Tennessee, and we know what those Tennessee receivers just seem like they just don't pan out. I mean, the last one I remember is like Peerless Price, but he's big.
Go Bill.
He did play. Peerless Price did play for the Bills. So, but no, he's a big receiver, kind of lanky, but he runs a 4.3, which he just blew the combine away. So I think Xavier Legette, I just think he's looking like more of a bust. And then Jalen Coker just seemed like he can't really stay healthy. So I think Carolina's looking for that another receiver outside of Ted, and he's just as big as Ted. So if this guy pans out, you got two monsters on the outside running routes for Bryce Young. So I really like this guy. I actually took him at the end of the second in one of our Dynasty leagues, and I was really happy to get him there. I actually traded back to get him. So, I really like this guy a lot. I hope he shows out and he does well.
Yeah, I think he's got a real strong opportunity, man. He's one of those guys that I'm targeting pretty heavily in that mid to second round range right now. I think he's got a perfect opportunity. And like you said, I mean, Tet's on the other side who's going to draw. It's going to be like a T Jamar kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like he's going to draw a lot of coverage like Jamar does from T, and then he's going to be big enough to use his body the way T does, and potentially could be somebody who maybe doesn't become a T Higgins, but maybe he becomes like a poor man's T Higgins, right? You know what I'm saying? Like a T-Moo T, like something like that. So that I could see that being something there that works out real well. So if you got the opportunity to snag him, there's not many other players I would take over him in that position in the draft.
Yeah. And the one interesting thing that I'm going to look at with this particular receiver and his 4.3 speed is if you're going to double Tet, you're going to leave this guy one-on-one. And, that's an easy pickings when you're doing a stop and go move on these defensive backs. And if there's no over the top help and this guy gets behind the defense, then it's just an easy pitch and catch for Bryce Young. So I'm really going to be interested in watching mini camps and seeing how he's integrated into the offense.
Absolutely. Moving on to the Bears, next team we're going to talk about here, and they started out with a safety on their first pick. They did hit a tight end though in the third round out of Stanford that a lot of people talked about. Pretty, they liked him, I guess, a little bit coming out of Stanford. This kid, his name's Sam Roush. Do you feel like he's got an opportunity to be successful, or do you like their other third round pick, the receiver out of LSU, Xavier Thomas, better?
I mean, I don't know much about Thomas, but Roush, he is a good player. I just don't see the need. I mean, they have Cole Kmet, unless they plan on moving on from Cole Kmet. They have Colston Loveland, so I just don't see why they went that route. I would like to see them maybe go with the third round picks, maybe go defensively instead of offensively. I think their offense is fine. Yeah, they did lose a receiver, but their offense is still going to be a close
linebacker there. I remember in the draft I was expecting linebacker at that point.
They were going to go defense there. I mean, they went safety. They got a center, which is another puzzling pick, and then they go offense. And I didn't really like the Bears draft.
Yeah, I thought they kind of did some surprising things too. I can't talk bad about them because they've been successful since they got this new regime and everything going. So I'm not going to hate on what they did until I see how it plays out. But I definitely was shocked by it. I'll say that much. The Bengals moving on to the next team up on the board. Of course, they had to start out on defense. I mean, why they should probably have done a lot more on defense. And honestly, they did take a couple of offensive players. They really didn't take anybody that I think is going to move the needle. They took Colby Young and out of Georgia in the 4th round. Jack Andrews out of Texas in the 7th round as a tight end. And I mean, do you think either of these guys are even anybody to be thinking about right now, or do you think this is more just a wait and see?
I mean, I like Andres from Texas. I think they're looking for the next guy to maybe slide in from the white gritty over there in Cincinnati. So
they already got him on the team. His name's Eric Gall.
Yeah, but he just can't stay healthy, man. I know he's a Michigan guy, but another guy that can't stay healthy, man. These guys, it's all about availability, and these guys they're just stricken with this curse of they can't stay on the football field. And if you can't stay on the football field, they're going to draft your successor, whether it doesn't matter what age you are.
It's true. That's true. So we'll see what happens with that. But otherwise, I really don't think there's a whole lot. I mean, nobody's going to usurp those 2 top receivers in that offense. So no real reason to go crazy there. The Browns, man, they had a couple of players here. You got Spencer Fano they started out with, which I think actually helps with Quinshon Judkins, even though it's not anybody like that's going to do, their own scoring for you on your fantasy team. They're going to help one of your players score a lot more, because I think that does help him quite a bit in that offensive line. But the other guy that they took later in the draft, actually I should say the other 2 guys that they took, because the fact that they were both there for him in the 1st and then the 2nd round like that, and they got them both, was kind of surprising. Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston both ending up in Cleveland. So number one, man, before we go into their situation, let's talk about the fact that this basically kills Jerry Jeudy, right?
I mean, they came out and said that Judy's spot is safe, but that's just coach speak. We all know that's just coach speak. Yeah. But the Cleveland Browns, they were my favorite draft team of the whole draft. I give them an A+. They hit everything they needed to hit. They drafted 3 linemen. I love Fano. He was my number 1 offensive tackle in the draft. So they took 3 tackles. They grabbed 2 receivers. And actually, people aren't going to think about this, but they did grab another quarterback, which we still don't know who the quarterback's going to be. So they grabbed another quarterback. So I really like this draft a lot. Oh, and the safety. I mean, I don't know we're going to talk about defense here, but that McNeil Warren out of Toledo, I know he went to a MAC school, but he is a stud. So they hit all the spots they needed to hit. So I love the Browns draft a lot. They were one of my favorite teams that came out of the NFL draft.
Yeah, whatever. I'm just mad at them because they traded up ahead of us to get the guy that I wanted the Bills to take in Concepcion. And there was rumors that the Bills were trying to make a trade up to get him as well. And
I thought the Bills were going to take Concepcion. I had him mocked to the Bills.
Me too. I mean, we talked about it on the show. I put it in my mocks, and all my mocks, I put him going to the Bills, because if he was there, he was going to be the pick. He
would have been perfect. He would have been perfect in the Bills' offense.
Yeah, if he was there, he was going to be the pick. But then, like I said, Browns traded up ahead of him, which I'm sure they probably knew the same thing that we were just talking about, and so they were like, we know we got to get ahead of Buffalo, so that's what they did. And then that's why I think Buffalo honestly went on the trade down, like stair step that they basically went on after that, was because they're at that point they didn't have anybody left right on their board that was worth taking where they were. So it is what it is. It's not why we're here. We're not talking Buffalo unless I'm really upset. Then I make you guys listen to me complain for like 10 minutes. But I'm not gonna do that to you today. Let's move on to Dallas though, because I think Scott talked up enough about Cleveland. I almost had to throw up in my mouth a little bit here and all that great talk about Cleveland over and over again out of him.
We don't really get to talk a lot of good things about them. So I'm gonna talk. I'll give them their props. I thought they had a really good draft.
Right. I'm messing around, right? I'm gonna get jumped when I get out there for the expo. I got to be careful what I say, right? I get to these Brown fans are gonna find me.
Yes, they will.
But but the Browns, they took a good safety. I mean, I'm sorry, Dallas Browns. See, still thinking Browns here, but that Dallas took a good player in the safety that they took. Now the whole trade thing and all that stuff, that's another story, but I do like the player. But we're not talking defense, we're talking offense, and they did not touch offense until the very end of their draft and took Anthony Smith out of East Carolina. And they've got Pickens. I don't think Pickens is going to leave, even though there's all these rumors. I think he's going to end up signing and staying for the season. So I seriously doubt this guy's going to do anything for you at this point. And they don't have a lot of success with these late round receivers. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I mean, Dallas did exactly what they needed to do. I mean, their whole draft was going to be defense, and actually, I like the Cowboys draft. I mean, they did exactly what they needed to do. I like Caleb Downs a lot. I thought he was one of the top players on my board, and then they got a couple edge rushers. So I like Dallas did exactly what they were supposed to do. They went all defense, but nothing on offense. We don't need to talk about them anymore. I want to answer some questions, and we got basketball times Beast 23. I'm sure we all know that's Michael Jordan. So he's got a question. Do you think Parker Washington or Matthew Golden will have a better season? And he has a trade on the table. So, Sean, do you like Parker Washington? Do you like Matthew Golden? Do you think they're going to take a step up? Parker Washington already did.
Yeah, I think it depends on if we're talking redraft dynasty, right? If we're talking redraft and you got this trade on the table, then I definitely do that and take Parker Washington and send away Matthew Golden. If you're talking dynasty, though, I personally am not 100% ready to give up on Golden yet, so I'd be a little more hesitant when it comes to that aspect, because I do think Matthew Golden, draft capital wise and then overall just ability wise, I think he has a higher ceiling than what we're going to get out of Parker. I think Parker is getting close to his ceiling already. So Scotty, do you agree with me, or would you go ahead and do a dynasty or redraft?
No, I agree everything that you said. I would definitely ditto that. So I'm not going to just talk over you. I think that analogy is spot on.
So yeah, so Basketball Beast Man, hit us up again with any more questions and let us know if that trade works out for you. If you can make that happen in the next 20 minutes while we're on the air, that'd be awesome. So let's and if you got another question on that trade, you know where to go.
Exactly.
So, moving on to the next squad here, we're going to talk a little Denver Broncos, and they started out on defense, but then they did take a player that we definitely need to talk about here, Jonah Coleman, going to them in the 4th round, the running back out of Washington. They attacked a couple of tight ends later, but I mean the real meat to talk about on this draft is Jonah Coleman here. So I have him kind of sitting in that, I'd say RB3, RB4 range in the rookie drafts right now, just ahead of Mike Washington, in my opinion, just because of the landing spots. But so we talked about this earlier. I know that we already had this discussion off air, but let's do it a little bit on the air too and talk about, where you have Jonah Coleman ranked in your rookie draft now that he went to a team that there's a chance he can get a decent role.
Yeah, so I look at it this way. He has the same setup as J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins is on a 1-year deal. I think he could possibly move into that role next year. He's kind of the same back, 5'8", runs a 4.5. It's pretty much the same, 220, kind of the same build. And I'm not a big fan of R.J. Harvey, and I think R.J. Harvey's more of a satellite back, in my opinion. I don't think he's between the tackles guy. So I actually like the landing spot, and he was my 4th running back off the board. So I've seen him going as early as the early 2nd in some of these drafts, and I think that's a good spot. So I wasn't able to get my hands on him, but if I could, I would. But yeah, if you're able to get him, I think going into 2027, he could eventually have that lead role.
I agree. I 100% agree with that. And that's why I have him above Mike Washington now, based solely on the way that he ended up in his position where he has a chance at that lead role. And I just don't see that for Washington, unfortunately, being behind Janty. We do have a shadow sightings, everybody. Dun, 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 dun. We got ourselves a shadow sighting here. He's asking why the Eagles traded up for wide receiver when they already signed a lot of receivers and traded for Wicks. And I totally agree with you. I had no idea what was going on. I think so much so that Pittsburgh didn't even know that was going to happen, because they tried to call the guy and tell him he was going to be a Steeler. Well, the Eagles were trading up to get him. So it was a pretty insane moment in the draft. I don't know if you saw that, Scotty, that he was actually on the phone with the Steelers when the Eagles traded up to take him. And he's all like, why are the Eagles calling me right now? I think the Steelers are probably like, I don't know why the Eagles are calling you right now. And then his agent comes running over. Eagles are on the phone. They're trading up for you right now. It's pretty. Well,
I think officially, after I heard that, Howie is my new favorite what is he? He's a GM, right? Or the owner?
Are you kidding me? He's now your new favorite. The guy's been literally killing it for the last decade, and he's just now your favorite.
He was last year, but he's an official dog now. He's a dog. He does it. So I love it. How could you pass on Makai Lemon? I don't mind trading up. And the receivers they brought in, Shadows, they're garbage. I mean, Wicks. I mean,
I do think, and he's talking about this too, that it's probably setting up a trade for Brown, which I do agree with. I do agree 100% with that it is going to end up being a trade of Brown at some point between now and the season starting. I think it'll happen sooner rather than later. I'm not even going to go out on a limb and say it'll happen before the end of next month, honestly. I think it's just going to be a quick deal that'll be done as soon as the dust settles and everybody's trying to get back in the groove. What was that?
Patriots.
Oh man! Oh, we got the follow up here from Basketball Beast here saying that it is a dynasty due with Parker's also adding a 27-second, which is intriguing. Okay, so if he's going to offer you a 27-second and Parker for Matthew Golden, I do think I take that then. Do you take that, Scotty? If you get, depending on where you think that 27 is going to fall, of course. If he's anywhere mid-range, mid 27 at the latest on your 27-second, I probably take Parker in the second over Golden.
Yeah, I would definitely take Parker in a second. The 27 class is going to be very nice moving forward. Yeah. I gotta address Shadows. I mean, I love the guy, but Hollywood Brown would, come on, man. He's not even in the same stratosphere as Makai Lemon. So, he's definitely trash. The guy can't stay healthy.
I love this trade right here, by the way, too. That Oz to the bank. I like that, actually. How I say it out loud. He said he sold his 26,309 for a 2027 third. I think that's an amazing trade. I do that all day right now. I'd throw anything after the 205 away for a straight up 27-second right now too. So like if you got like 206 to 212, I would try to trade that for a 27-second right now if I could too. Probably won't get it for the 212 because everybody knows it's probably not going to be the same thing next time. But hey, you might. Never know. It's worth a shot. So that's definitely, I think, like you talked about, 27 class looks pretty deep right now, and we're running into a wall here about mid-second right now, guys. To be honest, all these rookie drafts, like you're just grasping at straws after the mid-second right now. Yeah. So calling Hollywood trash is wild.
I want to hear what Brian over at the DJ.
You got to be careful, Scott. Baltimore is not that far away from, I mean, Philly ain't that far away from Canton, buddy. Hollywood might be able to just jump in an Uber, meet you down there for the expo and have some words with you. You got to be careful what you say.
Bring it on Hollywood.
Yeah, right. Whatever. You'd be running from Hollywood. The problem is he's too fast to catch it. Oh man, totally just went like completely off the topic there. Let's go on to the next team. Let's go to Detroit, Scotty's squad. So you guys started out on offense, but you took a tackle, so we're not even going to talk about him. You didn't even do nothing until a receiver down here, Kendrick Law. Do you really feel like that's even anything worth talking about? I think Tesla's their guy, right?
No, we can scroll through the lines. They did what they needed to do. They went defense, and I was fine with their draft.
So going over to Green Bay, same thing, cornerback to start their draft, along with pretty much everything on the other side of the ball. So there's really absolutely no reason to talk about them. I mean, they got a center, big deal, right?
Not unless you're in kickers only league. Trey Smack. That's a pretty nice, cool last name, Smack. So they drafted Trey Smack in the 6th round.
That's awesome. All right, next team up was Houston. Another team that started out with a lineman to work their way through. The first time that they took anything, they took a receiver, they took a tight end, but the tight end was the one that was taken early. Martin Klein taken in the 2nd round. So that was actually like a surprise pick for me. Do you know this guy at all? He's from your place. He's from Michigan. What do you think of what he's bringing to the table?
Well, he's not Colston Loveland, but he's got good hands. He's more of a move tight end, not as athletic as Colston, but I think he'll be fine. I mean, I probably wouldn't have went that route in the 2nd round. I mean, they took him in the 2nd round, so I think there were other tight ends on the board I would rather have over him. So I don't really like the pick a whole lot, but you never know with these tight ends. I mean, but like I said, it's not my favorite pick.
That was a theme this year, I felt like, is like people just grabbing players that you didn't anticipate that they were going to go that early.
They took him 59th overall.
Yeah, there's a lot of players like that. The Niners receiver that they took, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. We're going to get to him here when we go to the Niners, but that was a surprise for me. I did not think they were going to take him at that point in the draft. So. Yeah. There's a lot of things like Bills trading back 3 times to take TJ Parker. Another guy I didn't think that. I thought there was a lot better options on the board when they took TJ Parker and they took him. So again, I'm not a GM and I'm not a coach. I mean, it could be wrong. The kid turn into a super stud, but we haven't had a lot of luck with those mid-second round DNs lately. So
yeah, Shadows. We will talk about Ty Simpson when we get to the Rams. So stay tuned. I'm definitely in agreement with you on that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit about that here in a second as we roll through because we're going team by team here. The next one up, we got the Colts, baby. So the Indianapolis Colts, they took a linebacker, which I really like that linebacker guy. I wanted the Bills to take him at some point, but it just never came around to being an option for us. But they really didn't tackle anything until way late in the draft. So I don't even know if those guys are worth talking about, McGowan and Burks. They just seem like they're depth players at this point. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes for them. Jacksonville, they took a tight end to start things out. They took Nate Borenkircher or whatever. I don't know how you say that, but whatever it is, he's going to get paid because he was a second-round pick. So what do you think of this kid coming out, Nate Borenkircher?
Yeah, I really didn't do any analysis on Nate Borenkircher because, I just don't think he was a good prospect. So I kind of glossed over him. But you have Brennan Strange and
I was just going to ask you, what do you think of Brenton Strange's value now with this pick? Does this mess up your value for Strange now?
I think this does absolutely nothing.
So you still think Strange is the same spot he was before all this?
He's in the same spot. I wouldn't be worried about, and if you are worried and you want to let him drop to us, then I wouldn't mind getting some value on one Mr. Strange.
Right. They took a couple of receivers in the 6th round, a guy named Cameron and a guy named Williams, but it's not really worth talking too much about because they're pretty set at that position right now. We just talked about one of their guys, Parker Washington, and he's your 3. If he's your 3, you're not worried about your 6th round draft picks at this point. So this was another kind of odd move to trade up for this guy, which was shocking. But they did come back around later on, and they took a running back out of Nebraska, Emmett Johnson. A lot of people thought that they would be in the market for a running back, but then they went and signed Ken Walker, and everything kind of shifted from there. So do you think that Emmett Johnson has any kind of traction or any options there? Or you think he's just another depth guy that's not really going to do much for you?
No, I actually, I watched a lot of Big Ten football being in Michigan. And so I did watch some Emmett Johnson and I liked him a lot. You look at the backfield and besides Ken Walker, Hunt's going to be gone. The rookie they drafted last year that I can't remember his name because he's not that important. Emmett Johnson should be able to beat him out. So to me, when the season starts, I think Emmett Johnson's going to be the RB2 spelling Ken Walker. And if if Ken Walker goes down with an injury or anything like that, I think this guy could step right in and be a lead back. So I like Emmett Johnson a lot. I'm seeing nobody drafting him right now because everyone's looking at Ken Walker. So right now in one of the rookie drafts, he's still sitting there in the 3rd round. So I think he could be a sneaky steal, especially in a draft where running backs, it's not really that good. And once the top-heavy ones go off the board, everyone seems to forget about running backs in this class. And I think you can pick up Emmett Johnson pretty cheap. Even though he's a 5th-round pick, there's really nothing behind Ken Walker.
Yeah, Shadows is talking about DeMarcado was signed there, but I agree. I don't think DeMarcado really is somebody that like an Emmett Johnson couldn't beat out in training camp for that RB2 role. He just doesn't bring that much to the table to solidify his spot, right? So, that moving on to the next team in the Chargers, Chargers started out with a deep player again, and then they came back, but they did take a receiver in the 4th round, and it's an intriguing scenario for them. Brennan Thompson, the fact that they went with a receiver, they only had 2 picks prior to this 4th round picks at 3/4, no third. So this was their 3rd player that they took. Do you feel like this kid has an opportunity to do well there? Because he definitely I mean, he's in a position in that offense. Lad McConkey and Quentin Johnston are kind of the solids there, but they really have openings in the 3-4-5 role. So you think that they got a shot? He's got a shot to be in that, slot position or somewhere in that third wide receiver role for those Chargers this year?
Did we just pass through the Vegas Raiders?
No, the Raiders are coming up after we got the Rams and the Raiders next.
Okay.
We're on Chargers.
Oh, I thought you were going to go in order. Las Vegas.
It's the order that it shows on my screen.
What site are you on?
I'm on ESPN.
Wow. Okay. Well, I guess Las is after Los.
I don't know, bro. This is the order they gave me, all right? I'm just going in the order they gave me here, okay? Stop messing with me right now.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, I guess we're on the Chargers.
Long week. Come on, bro.
I guess we're on the Chargers. So, all right. Well, yeah, I think the kid from Mississippi State, I don't think he, pushes any of those other guys out of the way. I mean, I still like Trey Harris. I think I liked him as a prospect coming out. So maybe this guy is just going to be like a depth piece going forward. So I don't see too much into investing in Brennan Thompson out of Mississippi State.
Yeah, and I feel you. And just so you know, that they did it in alphabetical order as LAC, LAR, LV.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, so just so you know, I wasn't the one that was wrong. All right, so let's go to the LA Rams, the next team in alphabetical order. We got Ty Simpson, their quarterback. This is the one. This is Shadow's pick that he wants to talk about like cray here. Ty Simpson, quarterback, going surprisingly to the Rams. I mean, Scotty, 13th pick. They take the kid. Do you feel like this was a crazy move for you too? Like this was the one that like had the entire room go, whoa. So I mean, even Sean McVay looked like he went, whoa. So what do you think, man?
I agree with Shadows 100%. This is definitely a kabacle. Moving up to the 13th and drafting a guy who's pretty much played one season. I do think Simpson's going to be a pretty good quarterback. If the Rams were picking at the end of the first round, I could totally see it. But there was way too many better players on the board, especially on defense. Sitting there, and the Rams are in a win now window. You have a quarterback who's 100 years old, so you got a year or two left to really get another Super Bowl. And I think there was way more impact players on the board that can play immediately and not have to wait a year or two to put in there. So I think it was a waste of a pick. Everybody knows it was the owner. The owner's in bed with somebody at Alabama, and Sean McVay looked like he wanted to strangle him.
Oh, that was so funny, man. I mean, I don't know what's going on over there right now. I do think that both Sean McVay and Les Snead knew this was coming and made the decision and all that. I do think that was all like together. I don't think there's all this like, divide. I don't think any of that's going on. I just don't think that Sean McVay, I think he kind of got outvoted a little bit. I don't think he 100% wanted to go that route.
There's no way he was going that route, because the first thing he said was, when they asked him about the pick, the first thing he said,
This is Matthew
Stafford's team.
Yeah.
So that should tell you right there.
Well, this is Matthew Stafford's team here, and you know how we do it here in LA, man. It's all about Matthew Stafford out here.
Yeah, and if that's
that was my best impression I could do of
Buster said, like Buster said, says a lot about McVay's future. Then you know what? I'm sure there'd be plenty of teams lining up to sign this guy. So I think, and I know Sean agrees, once Stafford retires, I think McVay is gone. He is gone. Yeah. He is going somewhere else. So Ty Simpson's not going to be his problem.
Yeah, I think so too. Unless Ty Simpson just like totally like wows them and shows like Mahomes style potential when he gets to play, I think McVay leaves with Stafford, just like you said, and that's it. And I think he goes off to media. I think the moment McVay retires, he instantly becomes the host of Good Morning Football. I think it's almost like an immediate thing. Like, boom, good. He's on Good Morning Football. Like, it's gonna be like that for him because he's got that kind of personality. He's got that. He's gonna be the next Gruden when Gruden first came into the media world and just hit everybody by storm until he got in trouble for all the bad stuff he was saying in emails. But that whole other story. So I do think McVay has that style of personality though that's going to be welcomed in the media with open arms, and I think he'll do a great job with it too. So he might be one of those guys who takes a few years off and then comes back and tries to coach again, like a Dick Vermeil scenario or something. But I don't know. I think he just sticks with media, and he's pretty happy there for a while at least.
Yeah, well, I have a hot take. You want to hear my hot take?
Go for it.
Okay, in 2028, the Lions fire Dan Campbell and hires Sean McVay, and he comes back and gets to coach Jared Goff again.
That is an extremely hot take, bro.
How do you like those apples?
That's a hotter take than we get from like even the Jimmy Springer hot takes, man. Like that's a hot take right there, dude.
There you go.
That's awesome. We're gonna have to remember that one. What are we at? The 59-minute mark? We gotta remember that one. Flip it. I love it. Oh my god. All right. So, and by the way, you did mention, Buster, you wanted to talk a little bit about what you thought about Keenan, where he ends up. And honestly, now that we're talking about the Rams, I think it'd be a perfect spot for him. Go there, be that third receiver behind the two studs, and go stay in the same city that you're in. You don't have to move your family. You don't have to do anything crazy. You don't have to move stadiums. You're playing your same stadium. So just go right on over to the Rams, man, and jump on that bandwagon and go for a championship with the old man.
Yeah, if anybody deserves a Super Bowl, it's Keenan Allen. He's
100%.
He's in the same boat as me as like Mike Evans. I've loved that guy, so he deserves a championship.
Yeah, we know how much you love your guys. All right, let's move on to Las Vegas.
Hey, you don't want to talk about Max Clare? You just drafted him.
I guess we could talk about Clary. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just got excited there. Let's talk a little bit Clary here because I do like him. I just took him in the mid-second round in a TEP draft because I think the kid's going to be their starter. I do. I know they drafted a guy last year in Ferguson, but I just think that this kid's a better prospect, and I think they took him with like a clear mind or a clear role in mind for him. The only thing that might get in his way right now is Higbee being there still, but after that, I think this man has like a clear path to being their tight end one as time rolls on. So I think that's a solid player to snag if you get the opportunity to. Like I said, that mid-second round, I don't mind taking him that early. If you get the opportunity and he's sitting there for you, go for it.
Okay. All right. Now we can go to the Raiders. Yeah, now we go to the Las Vegas Raiders.
So this is the one, man. I mean, they started out with the pick everybody knew was coming, right? The Fernando Mendoza. Oh, Fernando. So he is here in Las Vegas, already at the casinos from what I hear. I'm just guessing, but, I didn't hear that. I just said that. But so, yeah, Fernando Mendoza, man. I think he seems like a good kid. He seems like he's, somebody that could potentially turn this franchise around, which is sorely needed here in Las Vegas. So, man, I mean, before we go crazy talking about anything beyond that, I know there's a guy you really want to talk about down the road here in a second, but let's for sure talk a little Fernando Mendoza first and see where you think he stands. He's going to probably sit for this full year behind Kirk Cousins. Where do you have him as far as your dynasty rankings right now, just as the situation is?
I probably would pencil him in just because I think they're doing it right in Las Vegas by letting him sit, and he's going to learn behind Kirk Cousins. So I'm going to put him I'm going to be aggressive and put him at 13 overall.
Ooh, I kind of like it though, actually. I was kind of in that like 13 to 16 range myself. So I think that's the right about spot for him right there. It's it's hard when you're talking about a rookie, especially one that is going to sit for as long as he is. And like right now he's being basically penciled in pretty much everywhere as the 1-2 in most rookie drafts. And, he's the only quarterback that is like, the kind of the surefire going to get at least a few years at the helm to see what he can do. Obviously Ty Simpson will too, but it's at least a few years out for Ty Simpson. Whereas you think Fernando is one maybe at the most, because Kirk Cousins it's been seen before. Kirk Cousins come in and play like crap. you're gonna be on the bench, and you're gonna get Fernando midseason. So, that could easily happen with Kurt because he's at that point in his career that's kind of where he's at, right? Those aged out quarterbacks, sometimes that happens with them, all our Russell Wilson. So I'm with you, man. I think 13 to 16 sounds like a nice little prime spot for him right there. I mean, if you really like him, 13. If you don't have like that much love for him, 16 is just right about that spot for me. So, but let's talk your boy, man. They took your boy, which pissed all of us off because he was one of our favorite sleeper guys that we wanted to go to a spot where you'd have a shot and not behind a super stud. But it happened. Mike Washington got drafted by the Raiders to be the second fiddle to Ashton Janty. So, do you feel like Mike Washington's stock is just like plummeted now as far as it's concerned when it comes to him in Dynasty? Or do you think that there's still a chance he's, somebody you would stash and hold?
I mean, unless you're an Ashton Janty owner, I don't see any reason to draft this guy. I mean, he went in the absolute worst spot you could go for a running back. I mean, I love this guy. He's Darren McFadden 2.0, 6'1", 223, runs a 4.3. I mean, the Raiders are just going to pencil him in as a kick returner, and he's never going to see the field unless Janty gets hurt. So unless you're a Janty owner, I could see taking him, but just an awful landing spot for Mike Washington, who was our darling of the draft. Anywhere else would have been great.
Yeah, I mean, I was just so disappointed too when I saw that. I literally screamed at the TV, no. So upset because just to me it was like you said. I mean, it just ruined it. We were so excited to have at least have that third guy or fourth guy on the running back list that you could be happy to draft and be like, yeah, okay, cool, at least this guy's going to be a contributor and potentially a star because he's got the potential to do that if he's in the right spot. Nope, not even close. He didn't go not to the right spot. He didn't go to not a great spot. He went to the worst spot to go to, other than maybe behind Bijan or Gibbs. Even Gibbs, he'd probably get some love, right? Even if he was the second fiddle of Gibbs, he's still getting some play. But he went to one of the worst spots that they're not going to do anything but run Janty down their throats. So, I mean, unfortunately,
it's such a Raiders pick though, because Al is in his grave right now, just going speed, and they draft a guy that has speed. So
well, I think they actually had another name written down, and then Mark picked up the phone while he was in the bathroom and called in a different name on the pick, so they didn't actually know until it got down onto the podium, and then the GM was like,
yeah.
So anyway, I know that didn't actually happen, but it's fun to think it did, right? Let's move on to Miami. Those Dolphins over here, the Blue Fishies. Caden Proctor was their first pick in their no tackle, so that's going to help them in that area, but not in our fantasy scores. So their first fantasy score that they took for us was a Caleb Douglas in the third round out of Texas Tech. You got anything you want to talk about when it comes to Caleb Douglas? You think there's obviously a room for him, and there's room for all three of these receivers they took to be on that field for him. But do you think that Caleb Douglas is going to be somebody worth drafting this year?
Okay, so out of the pile of receivers that they drafted, the one I think that's going to rise to the top is the one they took 94th overall in the third round, Chris Bell, out of Louisville. He's definitely a receiver that's got 4.3 speed, pretty big guy, 6'2", 200. If it wasn't for a torn ACL, I think he had, he would have been a higher draft pick. So he's recovering from that. So I think when the dust settles, I think this is the guy who possibly could be the WR2 or possibly WR1 on this team, because they have really nobody there for Malik Willis to throw to. So if I'm drafting any of these guys, I'm taking a chance on Chris Bell, and you could probably get this guy. I seen him go in the late second in drafts, so people are onto him. Maybe you'll get him in the early third, but I think that's where his range is.
Yeah, it probably helps you too that there's a guy who was drafted by his team ahead of him in that same draft. So there's going to be people that don't think that he's worth taking that high because of the fact that he was the second receiver off of his team. So you might be able to sneak that guy into a third round here and there. Yeah, you know what I mean?
That's definitely a fair point, because people just look at depth charts and look at where these guys drafted that aren't like degenerates like us, and they're going to be like, oh, there's this guy's should probably better because he was taken first.
Yep. Yes, sir. All right. Let's move on to the next squad, baby. Minnesota. They started out with a D tackle, but then they went on down the road to all the way to the 5th round before they started tackling offense. Max Bredesen at a tight end, another one out of Michigan, another one of your boys, and then they went all the way down to the 6th round to get a running back, which I was surprised by considering they don't really have much going on there right now. So between Damon Claiborne and the Max Bredesen, do you think either one of them has got a shot to make a difference this year?
I'd probably pass on the tight end. I mean, Bredesen was okay, but he wasn't anything special. Claiborne's interesting. Just he's interesting because of the running back situation there.
Exactly, because of the room, right?
Yeah, room. Aaron Jones is an old man, besides, I'm drawing a blank now. They're
Jordan Mason.
Besides Mason, who's still quite young. I think he's only 25 or 26. They don't really have any depth behind him. So, but yet again, 5th, 6th, 7th round running backs, they never really kind of pan out. So, I wouldn't expect much out of Claiborne. But like I said, keep an eye on training camp and see where these guys kind of pencil in practice.
Yeah. Next team up is those New England Patriots, the ones that Scott thinks will have a new receiver on their team within the next month. They started out with an O tackle, sorely needed, and then they moved on to another surprising pick for us. Their first offensive player off the board was Eli Raridon, a tight end out of Notre Dame. So, Scotty, do you think, I know their tight end room, they've got Hunter Henry, who's kind of penciled in as their starter for sure, but it's not like he's a super stud or anything. Do you think this kid has a shot to kind of work his way into that role as Hunter's getting older?
I mean, he could. He's not the best prospect that I've looked at, but like I said, it's opportunity. So, is he a guy that's going to learn from Hunter Henry and eventually take the job? He was a 3rd round pick, 95th overall, so he's a top 100 prospect that was drafted. So, possibly, but you never know. But interesting though, what I looked at, and like you said it, Sean, even though they brought in Romeo Doubs, they could have still used another receiver, and they didn't draft one receiver in their draft. So that should just tell you right there that possibly they could have the services of one AJ Brown possibly pretty soon.
Yep, that's whatever you say. Let's move on to New Orleans now and talk a little bit Saints. Anything but the Patriots improving. Jordan Tyson. We finally got ourselves a 1st round player to talk about on the offensive side of the board. This is an intriguing player right here, man. I mean, there's a lot of talk that he's better than Tate potentially. He went to a spot where he's going to get some targets. Olave's their one guy, but it's not like Olave is like that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like that guy could come in and be the one guy for that offense too. So do you think that Tyson becomes the one over Olave as time goes on in that offense, Scotty?
I don't think so. I mean, as long as Olave stays healthy, I still think he's going to be the one in that offense. Tyson did battle injuries, and he didn't go to the combine. He didn't have a pro day, but he did have a private workout, which he kind of blew it up. So that kind of raised his draft stock right there. And a lot of people were saying, he was. I mean, I seen him going to rookie draft the other day before Lemon, which kind of surprised me. So, the word's out on this guy. He's going to be a slot guy. He's very twitchy, very fast, has really good hands. So, I think it's a great move. The Saints picking him up. So, yeah, I definitely think if he stays injury free, he's going to be definitely a really good WR2. I just don't know if he's going to be as good as Olave is. But, if Olave gets those concussion issues, this guy's the prime target then.
Yeah, I mean, and either way, I think with that offense in the direction that they're heading with Shuck and, their new coach over there, I think they got an opportunity to utilize both those receivers and make them fantasy relevant. As long as Shuck doesn't take a step back in his sophomore year, which I don't anticipate from a guy his age, to be honest with you. So moving over to the Giants, baby, I thought they had a really solid draft, dude. They were like, you talked about the Browns. I think the Giants were my favorite, honestly. I thought they did a great job taking the right players when they were on the board. And the receiver that they took Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame. What do you think of his situation, right? He's in a spot now. They got Neighbors there, but they don't really have that like solid number 2, and they lost their slot guy in Wandell. Where do you think Malachi Fields sneaks into that rotation? Do you think he's going to get one of those spots?
Oh, he's a pretty good prospect. I mean, it's wide open there for him to step in, and it's there for the taking. So, yeah, where they got him in the 3rd round is a little, kind of late in my opinion. I like the Giants draft. I thought the Giants did a really good job with their draft. And I seen him in a rookie draft go as early as the early 2nd. Somebody traded up to get him. So somebody really liked Fields and probably have some better insight than we do. But like I said, with Wandell being gone, it opens up a spot opposite Malik Neighbors, and we'll see what happens. So I don't think it's a bad selection at all, especially in the 3rd round.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the Giants needed that position, and I think there's a good chance he has an opportunity to be pretty successful for your fantasy squad in year 1. Not to say he's going to be the top receiver by any means out of this class, but he's got a shot at being somebody that's worth starting in a flex spot for sure. So, there's a chance there for him to be successful, that offense. It's funny because the most intriguing thing that came out of the draft is like, what are the Giants going to do with their plethora of DNs now? But, that's a story for another time, right? I mean, they got so many guys between Carter and now Reese, and then Burns and Thibodeau, and it's like, what?
Hey, you know what? When they won their Super Bowl and beat the Patriots, that was the game plan. That was the recipe, is rotating in defensive players and getting to Tom Brady. And there's nothing wrong with having too many defensive ends, in my opinion. You just rotate them in and out.
Hey, if that's what it takes to beat up on the Patriots, I'm all for it. So let's move on to the next New York team, the Jets, baby, because it's in alphabetical order, NYG and NYJ.
Yes, I see that.
Make sure. All right. So.
You can yell at CBS.
Jets took their highest drafted defensive player ever in the history of the organization, David Bailey, at the 2nd overall pick. That was a pretty awesome spot for them. I thought it was the right move. Everything worked out well. But let's not talk about that guy. Let's talk about their other 1st-round picks, because they had not 1, not 2, but 3 1st-round picks in this draft, and they used 2 of them on offensive potential studs in Kenyon Sadiq, the Freak, and Omar Cooper Jr. So, Scotty, between those 2 guys, obviously Kenyon was the earlier draft pick and the higher rated prospect, in my opinion. But I think they both have a really solid opportunity to be successful for you. I would for sure be Sadiq over Cooper. But if we're talking non-TEP, is there a world where you think Cooper goes ahead of Sadiq?
I don't think so. But let's start this conversation off with everybody knows how we feel here at Sudden Death Fantasy Sports about the Jetropolitans. They are a disaster, and they are a franchise. I don't even know if we should even call them a franchise, but they were one of my favorite teams in this draft. I mean, they did a tremendous job getting Bailey, Sadiq, Cooper. They ended up going out and getting Cade Klubnik. Doesn't mean they're going to solve the quarterback issues, because we all know this is Arch Manning's team next year. Or the following year. So they're setting this up really nice for Arch Manning when he comes in 2027. I love Sadiq. He's a freak, tested awesome at the combine, smashed all the the measurables that he needed to do there. Definitely moved tight end. And Omari Cooper Jr., he's the other receiver from Indiana besides Surratt. So he was really good in that offense. So they did exactly what they needed to do. They got some offensive pieces to help there, and they also got some really good defensive players too. So David Bailey and Pons, the corner out of Indiana, and actually the Jackson Jr. from Florida State, the D tackle, is really nice. So I think the Jetropolitans did a really good job with their draft this year. They must have brought somebody in to evaluate talent.
Are you just messing with me today, talking up all this AFC East squads except for mine? Is that what's going on here? Is this on purpose?
I mean, it's just the way it fell. I think the Bills were outclassed this year in the draft out of the teams in the AFC East, including the defending champions.
You missed a perfect opportunity to tell me that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
That's basically what I said. They were outclassed this year.
Oh man, all right, well, let's continue moving on. We're almost done with this debacle of a coverage, so let's go to the Eagles here, baby. Talk a little Eagles. We just talked about the whole the debacle on the phone, right? That was all funny, but Mekhi Lemon goes to them at the 20th spot. So what do you think of Mekhi Lemon and the Eagles? I mean, we think AJ Brown's gone, right? So we're looking at Devontae Smith and Mekhi Lemon as 1 and 2.
Yeah. I mean, Mekhi Lemon, I think the reason why he dropped was people were complaining about some of his interviews, that they were like a little weird. And I know the interview after he got selected, it seemed like he was in outer space or whatever. I don't know. I could care less what this guy does, off the field. I'm concerned about what he does on the field. And he's going to be the perfect complement for Devontae Smith. So I think that's a no-brainer. But the one guy I want to talk about is Eli Stowers. I think that's a great pick. Another great pick by the Eagles. Dallas Goedert's probably going to be gone next year. And this guy's a really, really good tight end. He didn't get a lot of love because he played Vanderbilt, but he's going to be a pretty good tight end. So I like both those picks from the Eagles right away. I'm not sure why they drafted a quarterback in the 5th round. But other than that, I like those first 2 picks. What do you think about Stowers, Sean?
I agree. I think Stowers to me he's going to almost follow the exact same path that Goddard followed. He's going to play behind Goddard the way Goddard played behind Ertz, and he's going to develop because he's a young player who he needs more time to develop at a position that he's very new to. He's only been a tight end for a few years in college. He started out as a quarterback and so on. So to me, I think he's going to play in that Goddard role that Goddard was in until Ertz left. And then when Goddard ages out in a few years at the end of this contract, then my guess is that he's going to take on over as that guy. And I think Stowers has more ability physically. I think he's very close to Sadiq the Freak physically. He's got that kind of talent. He's just not, somebody who's developed yet. So we'll give him some time, and I think this kid's got a chance to be a super stud in the league.
Yeah, thank you there, Buster, but that's stretching it a little bit.
Scott's not going anywhere, right? Oh man. All right, let's move on to the next group though. We got Pittsburgh coming up here, and this was a team that shocked me because I thought, like, come on, you got to take at least one running back early to help us out in that back room, right? Nope, not at all. We're just going to wait until the very last pick of the draft to take somebody out of Navy who's probably got to fulfill his duties to the government before he even has a chance to play on your field. But anyway, let's move on to that and talk about their first guy that they took here. Jermaine Bernard out of Alabama is their first receiver off the board there, which obviously they traded for Michael Pittman. They have DK Metcalf, and then they used their 2nd round pick to take mid-second round, early to mid too, not like a late one, but they took a kid out of Alabama that a lot of people liked. So what do you think is going to happen over there, man, in their receiving room this year? Who's the odd man out?
Oh, it's Roman Wilson. I mean, he didn't really develop like they wanted him to. I agree with you. I think round 2, I think I would have liked to see him take a running back right there. I'm not saying Bernard's a bad player because he's not. He's a very, very good prospect coming out of Alabama.
That would be a perfect spot to take Mike Washington.
Oh, my God. If they would have taken Mike Washington, that would have been tremendous. And that would have just been the perfect spot, one of the perfect spots for him too. But we can't talk about it anymore. It's a lost cause. But the one guy I want to talk about is Drew Aller. So they took Drew Aller in the 3rd round. Not bad draft capital. And Drew Aller, like I said, I watch Big Ten football, so I watch a lot of Drew Aller. Big quarterback. He has the size, has the arm. Struggles a little bit with short passing, but they said if he would have came out last year, he would have been the number 2 overall pick out of that draft. And because he bet on himself and came back, he got hurt and just was, really screwed up throughout the year. But the Steelers take a chance on him. We all know that there's problems there in Pittsburgh. Aaron is holding him hostage like he always does with teams and can't figure out if he's going to play or not. I just cut the guy. Just leave. You're gone.
Yeah, me too.
At this
I
point,
would too.
You're a headache.
I would just leave a little note on the door of his darkness retreat, tent. and just put a little note on there so when he comes out of his darkness retreat, he knows he's unemployed.
Yeah, I'm so sick and tired of this guy. So you're done. So you're done, and let's see if it's going to be Will Howard or if it's going to be Drew Aller going forward. Or
if it's going to be somebody next year. Because if neither one of them show off this year enough to make it worthwhile, they're taking somebody next year.
Yeah. So Drew Aller's definitely interesting. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I think that was and like you said, interesting pick too. And I think he does need some time to develop, but he's got those kind of physical freakish abilities that could turn into something down the road. So let's go to the Seahawks, and they, the least surprising pick in the first round, right? I think pretty much everybody and their mom knew that this was coming by the time the end of the first round happened. Jadarian Price goes to the Seahawks, the Super Bowl champions, with the last pick of the first round. And I mean, this is kind of what we all anticipated, though. Scotty, do you feel like this kid is going to be like, where are you drafting him now? Are you taking, I've seen him go as high as I think like 5 in a rookie draft at this point, which to me was way higher than I would taken him. But do you think that he's got like that kind of potential? Sharps is hurt, so on and so forth. The team he's on is good, blah, blah, blah. Do you think that he has that kind of potential to be worthy of like a 5th or 6th overall pick in your rookie draft?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, is this guy like Roshan Johnson? I mean, playing behind Bijan, at Texas, and then, he was drafted pretty high and he ended up doing nothing. I mean, he's in a great landing spot. I mean, they're saying Charbonnet is not going to be ready till like November, so he's going to get the lead role. So I almost think you have to take him. I don't think I'd be as aggressive and go the 4th or 5th overall, but if he's sitting there, it's like, I'd say maybe 8th or 9th overall, I would pull the trigger. But I'm not going to pull the trigger 4 or 5.
It's exactly what I was thinking too. I was thinking in that 8 or 9 range. I'm not going to take him over the 3 receivers that were on the board ahead, like that. The Malachi, the Tyson, and the Tate. I'm not taking him over any of those guys, personally myself.
I'm not taking him over Sadiq either. I think I'm taking Sadiq.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, especially in a TEP. Even in a 0.5 TEP like we are, I think that I'm definitely taking Sadiq too, and then I'm looking at him. Right. So that's where we're at, right about that range, because you take Mendoza and Love, of course, as your first 2. So that's where I'm at with him, too. I do think that he fell in the right spot, though. I think out of all of the running backs, he probably, got the best actual opportunity with where he got drafted. So the Emmanuel Henderson, the receiver they took in the 6th round, I don't know if that's really going to move the needle very much. We know that they have their stud receiver locked down, and there's not going to be much else coming out of there in that position right now. The Niners, the next one up, and they started out with a receiver too, which is the one we talked about earlier that surprised the heck out of me. Dejon Stribling out of Ole Miss. It was the first pick of the 2nd round, so basically a first rounder. Do you feel like this was? I thought this was a reach at the time. Did you feel that way too?
Oh yeah, I thought this was a reach for sure. I had to go to my phone and be like, who the hell's this guy? And I'm like, oh my God, another Ole Miss receiver. Oh my God. What's going on here? But after I looked at the some of his metrics, he's actually really fast and actually has some pretty good metrics. So the way I look at it, I mean, they don't really have anyone there. I mean, if Ayuk moves on, which we all think is going to happen, they have Pearsall, who he's not really breaking out for us. I mean, we all think in a way that, George Kittle's really the number 1 target in that offense when he's healthy. So he's going to get opportunity. Like we always said, opportunity, draft capital, and landing spot. Boom, boom, boom. It all hits. So if you want to take a shot on this guy in the late 2nd, early 3rd, I'm not going to be mad at you because, like I said, it hits all 3 things that we're looking for.
I know. It's like, it feels like Ricky Pearsall all over again, though, doesn't it? I mean, it feels like the same almost situation, trading back and all this, and then are taking a player that you just don't expect them to take at that time, who's not even the top guy at that position in your rankings at the time. It feels like Pearsall all over again. So not to say that was bad. Pearsall looks like he could be a decent enough receiver. So I'm not, completely over Pearsall or anything at this point, but it was just kind of puzzling. I'll say it, that way. So they did take a running back, but come on now, Christian McCaffrey, right? We don't need to worry about that. Tampa Bay, so they started out with Reuben Bain Jr., which I thought was shocking that he was sitting there for him. So they ended up taking him and probably being extremely ecstatic about it. They came back around and they didn't take another tight end, which until way late. So I don't even think he makes a difference in the 6th round, Sharp. But the kid that they took out of Georgia State, Ted Hurst, in the 3rd round, it's slightly intriguing if you got issues with injuries in that receiving room, right? Because they lost Mike Evans, they've got Godwin, who's always been made of glass, it feels like, and then you've got Tez Johnson, Jalen McMillan coming off injury, and none of those guys behind them are really anything scary. So the kid has a shot if he could squeeze his way into that like 3 to 5 range, right?
Yeah, he kind of reminds me a little bit of like Isaac Tesla, like small school, coming in. He'll start off on special teams and work his way in and see what happens there. But yeah, the wide receiving room is well taken care of. So I'm a little up in the air about this pick, especially 84 overall, top 100 prospect. But like I said, it kind of gave me like when the Lions traded up and got Isaac Tesla. He's just an athlete, and they can use him. So he'd be an interesting guy to watch, how they use him in in off-season workouts, and then eventually in the exhibition games.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the kind of guy that if he shows out hardcore in the exhibition games, I wouldn't be surprised to see him across the field from Chris Godwin come week 1. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not like they have that super guy next to him that's really going to make it. You got Egbuka, of course. And I forgot Egbuka. Don't forget Egbuka. He's obviously on that team too, and he's one of those super studs too. But they, there's that third receiver slot position, and there's third receiver sets and stuff where you have your 2 out wide or your 3
you
out
have to
wide.
be really good though to beat out McMillan and beat out
Ted
Johnson, because both those guys.
McMillan is the guy that you got to worry about the most. McMillan, if he's healthy, McMillan is a guy that showed out. I think has some really good ability. So otherwise, man, it's like you said, it's all late flyers with a lot of these guys at this point anyway. Yeah. Tennessee, this is the one, man. They took the top guy on the board, Cardinal Tate. They took him earlier than everybody thought at 4. I think this was a victim of Love going at 3 too, by the way. I think this was the first domino to fall because of Love going at 3. I think Tennessee was all ready to take Love if he was there. But they ended up going the other route. I figured they probably thought in their mind, like, we're good with either one of these 2 guys. If one of them's there, we'll take him. If not, we'll take the other. And so they ended up getting Tate instead. What do you think of Tate in this situation? I think he's got a great offensive coach. He's got an opportunity in an offense that doesn't have any real strong receivers to challenge him. I think the biggest competition he's going to have is a 30-something-year-old Ridley and Chimere Dike, who I do like, but I mean, he's not like a super stud or anything. So I think Tate could have a chance, man, to come out here and just get like target after target in this offense and maybe have like a Ladd McConkey style targeted rookie season.
Yeah, I like the landing spot for sure. Tennessee was in a great spot. They were either going to take Tate or Love, whoever was there. They brought in Wan'Dale Robinson, who will run underneath patterns. They brought in a guy in Tate who will grow with Cam Ward, so they'll be tied to the hip going forward. I like it a lot, and I did have my number 1 receiver coming out. I couldn't get Lemon or Tyson over him. It just coming from Ohio State, even though they're Ohio State, I'll give them credit. They churn out receivers, so you can't go wrong with an Ohio State receiver. So to me, it was just a no-brainer.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, I like Tate a lot. I've taken him, and usually in that 3 spot. He's my pretty solid 3 guy after Fernando and Love are off the board. I think Tate is pretty much the way to go. I don't see any reason not to. If you're really diehard sold on one of the other guys, okay. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and like pound the table or anything, but I definitely think, in my opinion, I wouldn't even consider it if I'm sitting at 3. I'm either just trading out if I really don't care about getting a receiver, trying to get as much value as I can for it, or I'm just gonna sit and take Tate and be happy with the pick. So I did it earlier in the draft. I tried to trade out of it. The guy didn't want to give you what I felt like it was worth to get the player you wanted, so I just sat and took Tate. And, I would be surprised if he doesn't start throwing trades at me again to get Tate, because I'm pretty sure that's who he wanted too. So we'll see how that all works out. It's Trevor, by the way, so make it a little more fun. But so last team that we're going to talk about.
Hang on.
Wait. We have another player to talk about that I missed on here again. Did I do that again?
On Nick Singleton.
I did pass on Nick Singleton. Okay. Maybe because on this one, honestly, I just didn't really even anticipate that to be much of a thing for him. I think that they're just going to stick with Tajay Spears and Pollard this year. And if they do anything long term, it'll be addressed in the draft next season or free agency. But
I kind of like Nick Singleton. I think Nick Singleton can beat out Tajay Spears, and I think he could possibly beat out Pollard too. I mean, Singleton was a staple in that offense. At Penn State.
Mike Washington.
What?
Why did they take Mike Washington? The sons of
yeah, got to take Mike Washington too. But actually, we'll forward to a team that should have taken Mike Washington and they didn't, and that was the Washington Redskins. I know Sean's gonna slap my hand.
That's why you wanted to talk about Singleton, so that you could say Redskins instead of Commanders when we talked about it. That's exactly. Now I know your game.
I had to I wanted to make sure I clouded your brain. So yeah, the Washington.
You don't have to take a lot to cloud my brain, Scott.
The Washington team right there, they should have taken Mike Washington. That would have been the perfect landing spot for him.
Oh God, it would have been amazing, wouldn't it? Jeez, that would have been an epic spot for him to go. Their backfield could have used it too. So I was just shocked, man, that they didn't go that route. Now I do love the Sonny Styles pick. I thought that was the perfect pick for them at the time. But otherwise they did take a receiver in the third round in Antonio Williams. Scotty, they got a running back in the sixth. K-Tron, we'll talk about him in a minute. But Antonio Williams in the third round, that was an early third rounder too. So that's a pick that is another one that was a kind of head scratcher for me, but I mean, there's room in that offense for him to be successful.
Yeah, the prospect is good. He's a good prospect. Landing spot, I think is really good. And opportunity, really good. So it hits all three of my marks right there. I think it's there's an opportunity for him to succeed. How much longer is Terry McLaurin going to play? Maybe a year, maybe two. You're tied to an elite quarterback. They don't have much of a running game. So, I think it'd be a great guy to bet on going forward. And actually, Katron Allen, he's the one that stepped up and ended up getting into timeshare with Nick Singleton at Penn State. And I think Katron Allen, in my opinion, could definitely maybe not beat out Rashad White for the passing game work, but definitely could beat out Bill Merritt, McCroskey Merritt, or whatever. I don't see much. I'm not a big high on Bill anyways. So, and I don't know how much longer Rashad White's going to be there. So Katron Allen's definitely an intriguing prospect, especially being drafted in the sixth round. I've seen him go as early as the middle of the second round in these rookie drafts because people I think are thinking there's definitely opportunity for Katron Allen.
And that's exactly it, right? When you're talking about running backs, right? So you guys probably heard a theme here. We've been crying about Mike Washington's landing spot this whole time, and we've been hyping up some guys that you probably didn't even hear their name until today because of where they ended up going. So landing spot when it comes to running backs, that's very much important, right? Unless you're a super stud like a Jeremiah Love, even guys like a Jonah Coleman, who was considered a second. Mike, we talked about Washington again. Those guys were considered like good, solid prospect players coming out in the league. Price is another one, and they end up in bad spots and they don't have an opportunity, or they end up in great spots and they become that guy that you wish you would have drafted. So you got to make sure you keep an eye on that stuff because they don't have a big enough window to not worry about their draft team as much as you can with like a receiver or a tight end. Their window of opportunity is too short in that position for you to wait for them to sit behind somebody like a Janty for their entire rookie contract and then hope that they come back to another opportunity down the road, a la Tyler Algier, right? Like Algier sat behind Bijan all these years hoping for his chance. Now he's in Arizona behind Love again. And if you were holding out Tyler Algier or made any moves for Algier this offseason thinking he was finally going to get his turn, here we are in this situation again. So running back landing spot means everything. And even if you don't know the running back and you don't know who to pick and you're sitting there kind of just confused in the later round, look at where they're playing. Use that as your deciding factor.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Good
uh,
enough.
so that's all of it, man. I mean, there's a lot of things that happened in this draft that, helped some of these players out. There was a couple of guys that kind of lost value in this draft. We mentioned them over and over again, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse. But it really wasn't terrible in that aspect, though. We've only had a handful of guys that kind of, dropped off when it comes to their value. It really didn't move the needle for too many vets when it came to the way this draft played out. Not ones that you cared about anyways. Right, only some guys like Bateman and so on that you're already kind of throwing away anyways. So it was a lot of fun though, man. And beyond the draft though, now that the draft is over, we got to talk for a few seconds before we sign off here about our upcoming best ball games. We're already launching our $10 best ball games, guys. It's the exact same thing as we were doing before the draft for our kickoff bracket, except it's a brand new bracket with a whole nother $1,000 setup for the top 16 players to attack the bracket in week 14. And we're doing $10 leagues instead of $5 leagues this time. So if you do win your league, you're going to take home $100. You're going to get $20 if you're in second place, because we do not take a rake. So the entire $120 goes back to you guys at the winner of that league. And then if you're the top 16 overall scoring team, you go right into our 16 team bracket with a chance to win more money. So feel free to jump in those guys. They're in our hub on a regular basis. You can always find them in any of our leagues. Scott's been dropping them here starting yesterday, and we're just going to keep rolling through. What are we on? Echo, right? Is our first set of
we're
league.
Echo 2. We filled Echo 1 yesterday in literally an hour. So I launched Echo 2 a couple hours before we went live. So when we're done here, I'll probably have to go in there. It's probably close to being full. Our goal is to, get one done a day and get 40 of these bad boys out. And, for you guys. And, I know a lot of you guys have been chomping at the bit because you guys have been DMing us one of the best balls coming out. One of the best balls. We're like, dude, pump the brakes. Wait till the draft's over, okay? And then we'll get them out. So, been real happy with people coming in and doing that. And then look forward to recording our triathlon show that we're going to record and get out to you guys. That's our new game with 3 different styles of gameplay. So you guys some of you newbies will be excited to play that. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast. You guys have been doing a great job hitting the like button and subscribing. That number's been climbing. We definitely want to get to 500 subscribers because why, Sean?
Because we get to do super chats at that point. And at super chats, we get to start donating our super chats to the U.S. Vets organization that I've worked with for years out here. They like to help homeless vets get off the streets and back on their feet. And it's a really awesome organization. I'm looking very, very much forward to supporting again, along with, all the stuff that we're going to do down the road. That's just step one of all of our charitable endeavors that we plan to partake in as we move forward. So again, like Scotty said, man, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel and tell your friends to subscribe to. The more subscriptions, the better. We got to get that number up there so we can start taking advantage of all these opportunities to make some money for the needy. So, man, guys, thanks a lot for being here, too. We had a lot of good followers, or a lot of good viewers in here following us along throughout the show and talking about all these picks. Next week, we're going to do a little bit more. We're going to break down some drafts on the current ones that are going on for our best balls so we can kind of talk a little bit about how the rookies are falling in these drafts now. Maybe we'll have a game going on with a few guests. We are kind of trying to work that out right now logistically. Hopefully that comes to play because we definitely want to do another Wheel of Difficult Decisions. Now that we have our rookies where they landed, we get to have a lot more fun with that. We have a couple of buddies that are definitely looking forward to it, right, Scotty?
Sure.
So thanks again, guys, for checking us out today. If you guys haven't already, again, like and subscribe. For myself, Sean, a.k.a. Trader Clem, and my co-host, Scott, at Run the Hurry Up on Sleeper, we are out of here.